For years, Faye was one of the biggest mysteries in God of War. We knew she was Kratos' wife, we knew she was Atreus' mother, we knew she was a giant, but there was so much we didn't know. How powerful was she? Why was Odin afraid of the giants? How did Faye become one of their greatest warriors? What exactly happened before she met Kratos? And most importantly, how did a woman who was already dead become the protagonist of the next God of War game? Because Sony has finally answered one of those questions, and the answer is absolutely insane. This is God of War Laufey. And today we're breaking down everything we know about Faye's story, her powers, her history, and what this new game could reveal about one of the most important characters in the entire God of War universe. Let's get into it. Who exactly is Laufey? Let's start with the obvious. Faye and Laufey are the same person. Faye was the name she used while living in Midgard. Her true name was Laufey, and she wasn't human, she was one of the Jotnar, the giants of Jotunheim. But calling her simply Atreus' mother seriously undersells who she actually was. According to the official description of the new game, Laufey was a guardian of the Jotnar, a rebel leader against the Aesir, and a legendary warrior. And that's important, because before Kratos ever met her, Faye already had a legend of her own. Laufey The Just. In the previous games, we learned that Faye was known as Laufey The Just. She was respected by the giants for helping the weak and standing against the Aesir, and this puts her in direct opposition to Odin. The Aesir weren't exactly friendly toward the Jotnar. Odin viewed the giants as serious threat, and their knowledge and magic made them especially dangerous to his rule. So Faye wasn't just hiding because she wanted a quiet life, she had enemies, powerful enemies, and eventually she chose to disappear into Midgard, the woman Kratos never fully knew. Here is one of the most fascinating things about Faye. Even Kratos didn't know the full truth about her. He knew her as Faye, he loved her, he respected her, but he didn't know that his wife was actually one of the legendary giants of Jotunheim. And after her death, Kratos and Atreus begin a journey to fulfill her final request, spread her ashes from the highest peak in all the realms. What starts as a simple promise becomes one of the most important journeys in their entire franchise, because when Kratos and Atreus finally reach Jotunheim, they discover the truth. Faye was a giant, and the giants had apparently predicted their entire journey. Faye knew more than she let on. This is where Faye becomes really interesting. The giants possess powerful knowledge of the future, and Faye appears to have known that her death would set Kratos and Atreus on a specific path. The markings she left behind helped guide them. The tree she marked ultimately played a role in exposing her location, and that eventually brought Baldur to Midgard, which means something incredible happened. Faye's death wasn't simply the beginning of Kratos and Atreus' story, it was part of a plan. She knew her family needed to discover the truth, she knew Atreus needed to learn who he really was, and she knew Kratos needed to become the father Atreus needed. And then there's Loki. Atreus, that's the name Kratos gave his son, but the giants knew him by another name, Loki. And that revelation completely changes how we understand Faye, because she wasn't simply raising a child, she was raising someone who would become one of the most important figures in the future of the Nine Realms. Faye knew Atreus was special, and she seemingly understood much more about his destiny than Kratos did. That makes one question incredibly important. How much of Atreus' future did Faye actually know? And that's something the new game could finally explore. Faye vs Thor. Now let's talk about something absolutely crazy. Faye wasn't just a powerful giant, she was apparently strong enough to stand against Thor. The official material for God of War Laufey describes her as having proven equal even to Thor, one of the strongest gods in the Nine Realms. Think about that. Thor, the guy who fought the world serpent, the son of Odin, the god of thunder, one of the most terrifying warriors in the entire series, and Faye was his equal. That tells us something important about her. She wasn't powerful because she was a god. She was powerful because she was an elite warrior and guardian of the Jotnar, the golden hand of the Jotnar. And this might be the biggest new revelation. Faye wasn't just a guardian, she was known as the golden hand of the Jotnar. According to Santa Monica Studio, she was the most powerful protector of the giants and possessed terrifying abilities, including the ability to manipulate souls. And this is where the new game gets really interesting, because her powers aren't simply stronger versions of Kratos' abilities, they are completely different. Faye can rip souls from bodies. In To The Everywhen, the strange afterlife where the new game takes place, Faye's soul ability becomes even stronger. She can strike an enemy with her golden palm and rip their soul out of their body. But there's the crazy part. She can then attack the soul itself. She can even knock the soul into other enemies. That means her powers aren't just a story detail, they are a core part of her combat system, and it gives Faye an entirely different identity from Kratos. Her weapon isn't the Leviathan axe. Here's another huge detail. Faye was once the owner of the Leviathan axe, but that's not the weapon she'll primarily use in the new game. After awakening in the Everywhen, she encounters a powerful sword protected by a character named Rue. Faye earns Rue's trust and is allowed to wield the sword, and judging by the gameplay we've seen, this thing is absolutely ridiculous. Faye moves between ground and air almost seamlessly. Her attacks are extremely fast and the combat is designed around maintaining momentum. It's much more agile than the combat we've become accustomed to with Kratos. Welcome to the Everywhen. So where exactly does Faye wake up? The Everywhen is described by Santa Monica Studio as the afterlife of the gods, and this isn't simply another version of Helheim, it's something completely different. The Everywhen is a place where gods from different mythologies can exist and compete for power, and that opens the door to something we've never really seen in God of War before: multiple mythologies in the same world. We're talking about gods and creatures from across mythology, all inside one mysterious afterlife, and Faye has to survive it. Why is Faye alive? Now here's the biggest mystery. Faye died before the events of God of War 2018. We watched Kratos and Atreus burn her body, we scattered her ashes, her story was supposed to be over, so how is she now the protagonist? According to Sony, Faye awakens unexpectedly after her funeral in this strange land, and she discovers that the plans she made to protect Kratos and Atreus are now at risk. That's all Sony has officially explained so far, so anything beyond that is theory, and honestly that's what makes it so interesting. Faye's new team. Faye isn't alone in the Everywhen. She meets two companions. The first is Frankie, a strange cosmic cube played by the Jack White, and yes, you heard that correctly, a cosmic cube. The second is Rue, an enchanted ribbon guardian responsible for protecting the powerful sword Faye eventually wields. Together the three of them travel through the Everywhen, and they're going to encounter gods and creatures from different mythologies as well as being native to this mysterious realm. The biggest question about Kratos. Now here's a question every God of War fan is asking. Is Kratos going to be in this game? Here is what we know. Sony has officially positioned Faye as a protagonist. This is her story. This is official announcement focus. The official announcement focuses on her journey through the Everywhen and her attempt to protect the family she left behind. But that doesn't automatically mean Kratos won't appear. We simply don't know yet. And that's an important distinction. Don't believe anyone claiming Kratos has been confirmed as a playable character. He hasn't. At least not from the information officially revealed so far. Why this game could change God of War forever. For almost 2 decades, God of War has been built around one central character, Kratos. Greek mythology, Norse mythology, his revenge, his redemption, his relationship with Atreus, but Faye's story gives Santa Monica Studios something completely different. They can explore the world through the eyes of someone who isn't trying to destroy the gods, someone who isn't running from her past, someone who already knew the giant secret, someone who was fighting the Acer long before Kratos entered the picture, and that's potentially huge, because Faye could show us a side of the 9 realms we've never seen. The most interesting part. Think about this. Kratos spent years trying to escape his past. Faye spent years preparing for the future. Kratos was the weapon. Faye was the strategist. Kratos destroyed gods. Faye protected her people. And now we get to play as her. That's what makes God of War Laufey so exciting. It's not simply, here is another God of War game. It's, here is the story of the woman who was shaping God of War before we even knew her name. There are still huge mysteries. For example, how exactly did Faye die? What was her complete relationship with the giants? How much did she know about Atreus' future? What exactly is the Everywhen? Why is Faye there? Who are the gods fighting for control? What is the connection between the Everywhen and the other realms? What happened between Faye and Thor? And most importantly, what does Faye discover about the future of her family? We don't have those answers yet, and that's exactly why this game has so much potential. Now, Faye was never just Kratos' wife. She was a legendary warrior, a guardian of the Jotnar, the Golden Hands, a rebel against the Acer, a mother who knew her son had a destiny, and now we finally get to experience her story. So I want to know what you think. Is Faye actually one of the most powerful characters in the God of War universe? And here is a real question. Do you think Kratos will appear in God of War Laufey? Drop your theory in the comments, because if this game reveals what Faye really knew about Kratos and Atreus, we might finally discover that her story was never a side story. It was a story that started everything. Subscribe for more God of War lore. Now don't forget to join the Kenshiro community, like and subscribe, and as always, until another one, peace.